Welcome to my podcast. This is Mary Turderoff, and you are listening to Jump In with Mary. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining me on this podcast, Jump In with Mary. Today, I have a very special guest, Aycan Iskent. She is an attorney, she's a mom, she's a wife, but most importantly, she is an advocate for people who are trying to penetrate the immigration laws in the United States. I'm going to jump right in. First of all, welcome, my friend.
Thank you so much, Mary, for having me. It's a great opportunity for me too.
Thank you. Thank you for being here because you are an immigration law expert, an attorney. You have your own law firm. You specialize in it. But before all of that,
Sure.
I think that you're special because you are an attorney in this area of law, but you're also somebody who came here under a student visa as an immigrant.
Correct.
Correct. And approximately 14 years ago became a citizen. So you've gone down that path. You have empathy for clients who come in, and you know what it feels like to struggle and not know if your paperwork.
Firsthand. Yes.
So let's start there.
Okay.
I'm going to dive right in because we're in a very unique time in the world. June 20th, President Trump passed down a bunch of executive orders, and they must have had a lot of implications for people applying, but also law offices. As a lawyer, I kept thinking, I don't know how lawyers like Aycan are keeping up with the new order. And then you send them. So what happens? Let's talk about the lawyer's perspective.
Okay.
You do the paperwork for me today, and you ship it, you mail it today.
Yeah.
He changes the order, or it's modified tomorrow. You find out. How
that
do you
happened actually.
Tell
that
me,
happened in
give
the
me
early
some.
on the new administration. They took the office. They did it. They changed the edition dates of some of the very important forms without a grace period. So I didn't have, because I am not a volume immigration law office, so I have limited number of cases, and fortunately I didn't have anything in the mail, but some of the law offices and attorneys had many applications. They were in the mail to the USCIS, the Immigration Service, and some of the form editions, they got changed, and it was a huge disaster and panic for attorneys. But thankfully, I think there was a lawsuit or some kind of, I think the attorneys sued the government because it didn't provide any grace period to use the new editions. Then through court, attorneys, they secured some grace period, and, USCIS changed the rule and accepted the older edition date forms. It solved the issue, but it happened. So it's very scary. So my lesson learned from it, for every single application, before I submit, I take the screenshot with the timestamp from the government's website to show my client.
Right.
At the time, that was the form edition, or that was the filing location the government tells me to do.
Right.
So it's what I did. So because otherwise, client will come back to me and say, "You're an attorney. How come you didn't know?"
Exactly. and be mad at you. And then there's an economic component. They pay you to do the work.
Yeah.
You do it, and then you have to redo the work without the money.
I think it's not the worst part. Worst part is sometimes, I try to avoid that, but you do the last minute applications. Like, for every application, immigration application, when you file, your client has to be in a legal status in the US. And usually those status has a deadline. So in order to file something, another benefit, that person has to maintain the current status. So if there's any rejection from the USCIS with the mailing in and getting that application back, your client might, lose the legal current legal status might expire.
Ooh, that's
then it's
a lot.
even harder to refile something, because then you need to explain, okay, I sent this out, but you rejected. This is the original filing, UPS shipment, delivery notice. It's much harder.
It sounds like a cloud of chaos. Quick question, as the attorney or attorney's offices, how do you guys get notice that there has been a new change? Do they just upload it on their website? You have to check every day?
it's still good practice in my office. For every single application I send out, we have a checklist. So at least 2 additional people, they check the edition dates, signatures, filing location. Every single thing is being checked just before I send anything out.
Right.
But in general, I'm a member of American Immigration Lawyers Association. So on daily basis, the association sends us newsletters, just summarizing every single change.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Every day. I mean, that's I just want listeners to know that's usually very uncommon.
Yeah.
That's not how practicing law feels, where every day you're supposed to check for.
But to be honest, this is not unique to this administration, Trump administration. I have been practicing for 14 years now. Actually, I had the anniversary. I'm in the 15th year in practice. I'm very proud. As I said, I have the immigrant background. I am an immigrant myself. But it has been like this since day one.
Okay.
Because unfortunately, immigration is highly politicized.
Is it?
It is. Like, you can see if there's Democratic president, it's different. And if it's Republican, their approach is different. And unfortunately, immigration system is broken. I think everybody agrees on it. Like, U.S. is a great country, and it attracts most of the talent, smart people from everywhere. But the system is broken. System as the laws are written maybe 30 or 40 years ago. And because of this, it's so highly politicized, there's no reform. I think it's badly needed. It has to be reformed. But takes bipartisan agreement to make any reform, and they don't get agree anything. So what happens is those old regulations are being interpreted. So the change is not the law is changing. The interpretation of regulations are being changed depends on the administration.
Okay, just to summarize, what you're saying is the laws are there, they're set, they've been written decades ago, they haven't been reformed or modified, and you have different presidents, different administrations coming in and just interpreting it however they want and see fit. And then, that sounds very tumultuous, but it's kind of a crazy irony because as unstable as it is, it's like the country and the land of a melting pot of people, an opportunity. Like, you came here as a full-fledged adult. Mm-hmm. You learned, you knew English, but you took the bar exam, one of the most difficult exams in California, which is the hardest state. The bar exam is the most difficult in the state of California. Mm-hmm. You took a 3-day exam, which is a total of 18 hours of exam taking in a language that is not your primary language. I had a hard time taking it in my primary language. You took it, now you run your own practice. So I'm just thinking it's like land of opportunity, but
that's right.
But then there is this roadblock.
Yeah. That's why from my own experience, I'm so grateful to this country for the things it provided me. And when I was amazed that when I decided to take the California bar exam, nobody asked me about my immigration status.
What do you mean?
It wasn't on the paper, it wasn't on the application papers, they didn't care.
But you were here on a student visa.
No, at that time I had my green card. I was the lawful permanent resident, but I didn't have to disclose it to anywhere during my application process. It wasn't asked. So
that is interesting.
Yes, and I know that probably I think you are aware of DACA recipients, people younger kids. They were brought to this country when they were younger than 16 years old.
I don't know. Give us a quick summary. What is that? I didn't understand that.
They are being known as dreamers.
Oh, dreamers.
Dreamers.
Oh, I know what dreamers are, but give us a quick definition for listeners.
So dreamers are the kids, basically, or they used to be kids when they entered into this country when they were 16 years old or younger.
Okay.
Without a legal paperwork.
Okay.
They're undocumented. But, they were under 16. Some of them like were babies when they came here. And those kids, actually, they never knew they were undocumented. They grew up believing that they are US citizens. And I know that, and it was another surprising thing to me. I heard there were some undocumented immigrants lawyers.
Oh.
Because, the system in California, maybe it's more like a liberal state. I don't know, it's California specific. So basically, that was my first impression about this country. Okay, if you are qualified, if you are a hardworking person, we open the doors for you.
Right.
So far, that was my understanding. And that actually motivated me. I don't need to have a powerful relationships to be successful. I don't have to be a rich family behind me. It's me,
Correct.
Just me. If I work hard, this system will provide me life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. It's promised to me. And only thing I need to do is hard work. So I truly believe most of the immigrants, they have the same notion. I truly believe that. And that's why I'm so honored to be in service to those people.
I mean, the country should be honored that you are serving people because, I mean, especially now, it's there's so many layers. And I know you specialize in business visas, correct?
That's true. My specialty, because immigration is like an ocean. There are so many different layers. And actually, according to U.S. Supreme Court decision, U.S. immigration law is the most complex law after tax law in the United States.
After tax law?
After tax law.
Huh,
so
okay.
It's one of the most complex. So
Wow.
there is no way you can handle everything in immigration. So I because of my background, before I came to US, because in Turkey, I'm originally from Turkey, as you said, you can directly go to law school after high school. So I was 20 or 21 years old. I became an attorney in Istanbul. I still have maintained my bar license there. So I practiced business law there when I came. So my heart was in the business law always. But when I passed the bar here, because of my international background, I start to have immigration questions. So I see the potential there. So I combined my two passions, immigration and business, and I created my law office focusing in business immigration.
I love that. That is so beautiful. And I know that area, people might think, so here's the thing. We look at the news and what we see is, we don't see the business visa applicants. You see people who are just here undocumented, being dragged into cars and ice cars. But I've heard, and tell me if this is correct, that business visa applicants who are completely legitimate, have done everything right with attorneys, are also getting rejected for no reason. Is that happening as well? That is just not a good time to apply in general.
For business immigration, I mean, it's very complex. The laws and regulations are complex. And most of the things I realize in my practice, people, they don't take those laws or regulations seriously.
What do you mean by that? They don't take it, like they come from another country and they kind of think it's a quick, fast process?
Especially like startup owners. I have most of my clients, they are startup owners.
So they start up, they want to start up here or they have a startup somewhere else?
Both.
Okay.
Like, they might have a startup abroad and they want to, do business in US, or because the world is so global now, like, they are so already connected business, they already have business connections in the US. So, for example, they think the immigration is just a procedure. They go ahead and they start doing businesses because so the regular visa is usually most people have, the foreign people, is B1, B2 tourist visa. That allows people two different activities in the US. One is just vacation for pleasure. They can go to Disneyland or Laguna Beach, for pleasure. But other one is B1. It's like without doing any labor, you can do some startup activities or business connections, coming to the conferences, like business-related activities, but it doesn't include any work authorization.
So that's an example would be if you're not employed here, let's say you're employed in Italy, but there's a seminar in the US and you want to come to the seminar, participate and leave.
Yeah,
Okay.
for
Got
just
it.
seminar. Or
Okay.
there's a networking event for technology investors. There's a,
Right.
some kind of gathering. So you can come and attend and collaborate with other people.
Okay.
But you cannot do any labor. You
Got
cannot
it.
sit even for your foreign employer.
Oh, okay.
It's another thing. People, they don't think that you cannot open your laptop and work, make any labor for any employer within the US or out of the US. But if it's out of the US, nobody will, catch
Track
it.
it down. Yeah.
It's less traceable, especially if it's just a temporary time. Like if you are in the US for 2 weeks and you do that, it will not be harmful. But it happened during COVID time. Some people, they just moved here because, like, for example, they had a wife as a student here, and the husband came on F2. F2 doesn't have a work authorization.
F2 is what? Give us the
spouse visa for the F1 holders. F1 is the
so spousal
student.
visa. So your wife is here, for example. You come on an F2 on a spousal visa.
Yeah, and COVID time, because we kind of stayed where we are, right? For a longer time.
Yes.
So those people, they start to work for their foreign employers. Non-US employers. Why?
Because they have to. They're stuck here, right?
Yeah, they are stuck, or they didn't want to be separated with their wife or husbands, whatever they are studying here.
Yes.
But I got a couple of consultations for people in that situation. It's not clear, like in the US legal system, if it's unauthorized work or not. It can go either. They have to disclose it for sure, because that happened to one couple. They got a green card from the lottery.
Okay.
So they were here in the US legally, F1 and F2, but the husband did the work to abroad. So if it's considered an unauthorized work, they are not eligible to file for their green card. So they were like PhD candidate, like very high educated people, and they were looking into answers. That's how they kind of found me and booked a consultation. And I researched so much, there wasn't a clear
answer.
No answer. And only advice I gave to them: disclose it. Disclose it on your filing, because not disclosing it is another issue. And then the officer will decide.
Right.
And later they kind of, got back to me. They said, Aycan, we disclosed everything, and officer approved our green cards. But my research showed me it could have been
either
considered an unauthorized work. But officer just, used the judgment, the favorable discretion for them, I guess.
I think you're bringing us such an interesting concept that you're right. You think logically, rationally, there is just a set of requirements, criteria, and that you have to go check them all off and you're in the clear. But sounds like a lot of the laws, regulations are very vague and ambiguous, open to interpretation. And then who's interpreting? Who's the officer that's standing there who checks off your paperwork? There's a little bit of surrendering control.
So to your first question right now, probably same application with the same, everything is the same, will not fly.
Wow.
Because the officers right now, they are instructed to be more strict on the regulations, or just, for any reason, they look for things to deny.
Right.
So, that makes my job harder, but my experience and I think my intuition is much more valuable right now than before.
Absolutely. And since we're talking about business visas, there's all this talk about the gold visa. If you got $5 million in your back pocket, you can glide right into the US. Just generally, is it true? And that's my first question is that really true? Is that how it works? And meaning, is it that simple if you are a entrepreneur with a lot of funds and you do have the $5 million to invest, you can get it? And my second question is, what does that mean in general for our economy? Because we're flushing out manual laborers, which we need, like most of the undocumented staff. A lot of people on construction sites, housekeeping. A lot of what holds us up as a society is built up on undocumented people who don't have the funds or even the education or access to hire an attorney. So they just have to go under the radar. So what does that mean for us? Like, are we losing that demographic and are we flushing in wealthier entrepreneurs, oligarchs? What's happening with this golden visa? Let's start gold visa.
So I believe it's still early to say anything what we are going in terms of immigration policies, if there's any logic.
Right.
Even I am not sure if even any logic behind all the changes. But the gold visa is just like what the President Trump announced, but nothing has happened as far as I know. But we have something similar already since 1990. It is called
what is it?
EB5 investor visa.
EB5 investor visa.
Investor visa.
So what
it's
is
the green
it?
card.
Okay.
Like if you invest in close to 1 million into a U.S. business and create jobs for each investor, minimum 10 U.S. Local employment, there's a way to get a green card as an investor.
Okay.
And there's one other indirect investment version of the same EB5, and it's mostly used. It is called Regional Center. So it's a program. It has been, being used by foreign investors like since 1990s. So people, they think if golden visa comes in the picture, it will be the addition to EB5.
In addition to, so I'm seeing it a little differently. So I'm seeing it was 1 million. Now it's 5 million. You're saying...
So I think 5 million, I don't know we need to know the more regulations, but my understanding is it will be just the money and you will get the green card. It will be much shorter because even the EB5, it takes much longer time.
Does it?
Yeah. Initially, you are granted for 2 years green card, conditional green card, and there's another step to removal of condition. Even you do those kind of big investments.
It's still not a fast turnaround.
No. One of my clients, I had a couple of clients recently, and one of them took 4 years to get approved the initial green card, 2-year green card.
Through this $1 million?
Yes,
wow.
after the investment.
After the investment.
And right now, their investment in their 6th or 7th year.
And they're still not citizens?
No, because we are about to file the removal of condition.
Wow.
And they cannot take their money out during the conditional residency. And their money is there and without any interest, nothing. So it's at-risk investment. They might lose their investment.
So if they're rejected, that was going to be my question. If they are rejected, this guy, let's just call him Bob, has waited 6-7 years. He gets denied officially next year.
So...
He loses his investment?
No. It's two different things.
Okay.
But if the investment fails, doesn't create the promised jobs.
I see. Okay.
Then, that person can lose both the money and also the green card if the investment fails. But if investment doesn't fail and created the jobs, if that person specifically doesn't have any inadmissibility issues such as criminal record or, some kind of public threat individually, they will get their green card, as long as the conditions are met.
Even then,
But it takes so long. So long.
6-7 years is a long time.
And people are hesitant to establish their life without seeing something certain.
Right.
So... And it adds up another layer of complication if you are just keeping one person in the line for 7 years after making 1 million investment. So I don't know. I'm not so hopeful about that 5 million thing. I think the biggest problem, usually rightfully, US is very, very curious about the source of funds. They don't want people to bring in the US the dirty money or dark money. So for the EB5 cases, usually this is the most problematic thing to show the source and the trace of the money.
So they want that much detail.
Yes, for EB5 cases, they are very, very they act like they are financial investigators. They want to see, even for example, you sold a house, you purchased it 20 years ago. They ask you the source of the funds you used
for that house.
Yes.
Wow, that's really hard
Yes.
to
And it's
even
very hard for so many, for like, my Turkish clients in Turkey, is the finance system is little different.
right.
For every investment like tools, they create a new account. Here in the US, it's not the same thing. You can, it's not a separate bank account. So it looks like money is just going in and out of multiple bank accounts, but basically this is the same money, just they are investing in like stocks, or they are purchasing like foreign money like dollars. So
Wow.
it's so hard.
That's very complicated. I feel like overwhelmed just listening to you tell me the process, because it's like a circular.
Yeah.
Well,
it's complicated. So things will, with the Trump administration, the business immigration, like basically, of course, there are so much, as you said, so much area, the officers, the evaluating officers, they need to apply discretion. So that discretion will be much like very narrow. It's going to be very narrow. You have to document everything precisely, not allowing the officer to make their own judgment, because if they make any, they need to use in discretion, probably they will use it negatively, not positively.
Okay.
So it will make things harder to get approved, I think.
So to shift gears, question: you have a son who is a citizen, but let's say he wasn't. He was born when you didn't have citizenship in the U.S. I'm heading towards birthright citizenship. And just like for some general understanding, because there's so much on social media and on TV.
Yeah.
Has that already changed, that birthright citizenship no longer exists? So first, let's define, what does it mean to have birthright citizenship?
Okay. So it is, the birthright citizenship is designed under the Constitution's 14th Amendment. So it's the constitutional right for everybody in the U.S. So it hasn't changed. But
so it's when you're born here.
Yeah, any babies right now is still the law.
It's still the law.
It's still the law. Any baby who was born in the U.S., they are U.S. citizens.
Automatically.
Okay. There is no, President Trump issued an executive order, but right now there are, as far as I know, 3 different nationwide injunctions stopped the executive order.
Okay, and just really quickly to summarize, what we're talking about is, so even if your parents were undocumented immigrants, if you were born here, you're a citizen, no questions asked. You have all those 14th Amendment rights.
Right.
Now, so what we're hearing is, oh, no, it doesn't work that way anymore. If you're born here and your parents aren't immigrants, that's what they're trying to pass, that law. And what you're saying is that, first we need more time to see how this plays out, but you're saying it hasn't been implemented or enforced quite yet. So
basically, it's not something a president, an executive branch can stop it with an executive order.
Correct.
It's for sure.
Because it's a constitutional right.
It's a constitutional right. And if they are able to do it, it will also, the same thing can happen for the Second Amendment, the bear arms. It's the same thing. So changing the constitutional amendments are so difficult. Actually, I did my study. So basically, there is need for huge support in both the House and Senate to amend an amendment or add an additional amendment to the Constitution, and agreement from 38 state governments.
Okay.
So it's not going to happen.
So 3 steps, and there was only a presidential executive order, which means 2 of the 3 steps weren't done.
But you know what the current administration is trying to do? They try to change the interpretation of the 14th Amendment, because 14th Amendment says all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States. It's very clear.
It seems very direct.
But what they are trying to do, or they claim that deadline, subject to the jurisdiction thereof. They claim the people, when they arrive here without a visa, they don't subject themselves to the jurisdiction of the United States.
Right.
Yeah, but if it is the case, you cannot put those
People in jail.
subject to any regulations. So
Right. Or like, I was thinking something else really quick. If they're not subject to the jurisdiction,
you cannot deport them either.
you can't deport them. And I was also thinking during my time in criminal law as a litigator, a lot of the people we worked with who were arrested and jailed through the criminal court system, they were undocumented.
Right.
So they are subject to the jurisdiction because they were found as violators and they were housed in a prison here.
Correct. And, to this rule, there's only one exemption. They are the diplomats.
I see.
So diplomats, because they are not subject to the jurisdiction
Correct.
of the...
That makes sense.
Yes. And if you are born to a diplomat family here in the U.S., you will not get the U.S. citizenship. It's the current law.
So if you're born to a diplomat, they're not citizens, but you were born here, you still don't get citizenship.
No, I'm saying right now, under current law and regulations, like... For example, you are serving as a diplomat from a foreign country. You are from Germany, you are German diplomats, and you had a baby. Your baby will not get the U.S. citizenship because the parents are diplomats.
Right.
Diplomats are not subject to U.S. jurisdiction. If they kill person, the U.S. cannot prosecute them.
I understand. Okay.
So this is the only thing. And now the Trump administration, they try to make the jurisdiction thereof. They are not subject to the jurisdiction. So they try to convince the U.S. Supreme Court to adapt that interpretation. But I mean, I don't know. As a lawyer, I don't think I think uphill battle. I don't think they will succeed, but we will see. It's still, I think last Tuesday there were oral arguments happened in the Supreme Court. It's an ongoing thing. Nobody knows.
It's like in the air. It's nothing tangible that you
can.
And
it has been like 150 years long established law, and it's rooted to slavery time, 1868. The 14th Amendment edited into Constitution to protect African Americans who were born in the U.S., their equality. So it has that kind of historical roots. We will see what's going to happen, but I don't think it's going to change. I don't believe so. But the government, if they want to limit, they can regulate foreign people to come here, and because there are some birth tourism, probably you are aware of. Some people, they arrange people to come into US and give birth. They can prosecute those people.
Is that a big market? Wait, first let's talk about that. You mean they arrange to have the mom come here during her labor and delivery, she gives birth. All right, that's been happening for decades.
Yeah. I live in Irvine, so once a while in the news, I said, there is a Chinese organization, that they kind of do those arrangements. They are
You mean
not
the
legal.
organization coordinates to bring the mom, have her give birth, and then they help?
Everything. They coordinate everything. The place they stay, doctors, hospitals. I think I feel like I never had interacted with any of these.
And I want to say it's not only happening in that community. I know a lot of Armenians, and it's happening with every community.
Every community.
Right.
It attracts because, people, they want to give the best to their
Of course.
kids. And the United States is a superpower, and it seemed like it's the people, they think it's just the best opportunity for their kids. And they don't, this is the thing, they don't think it's illegal. They don't think it's against the law. Maybe more advertisement, more educational.
But is it currently it's not against the law to give birth here and as a non-citizen.
But I believe I need to do more research, but I believe only solely purpose to come to US to give birth and obtain the US citizenship.
I see.
Is not it's not the proper use of a tourist visa.
I see.
But if there is a medical need, for example, I don't know, some kind of, your delivery needs a special treatment and your home country doesn't provide that treatment, and not only US, but you trust the doctor in the US, it's gonna, give that procedure treatment to you, then that's okay, because you are not coming here to just deliver the baby and obtain the citizenship. You are coming here for the treatment.
Right.
Specifically, then, which is okay. And you come here, you deliver the baby, and the baby will become the US citizen. That's okay. But you cannot come here just to obtain the US citizenship.
Right. That makes sense. On a human level, I want to say that it's so natural and innate for a parent or mother to escape whatever horrific conditions they're experiencing, to do that, even if it's illegal. I think that's just a human innate maternal instinct to do that if you're under these awful conditions. So that's just a whole other layer.
I want to add one more thing. This, and again, it's not my specialty, and I also have very limited knowledge about it, but it's another shocking thing when I heard about it. At the southern border, there are unaccompanied kids. They are being sent to the US without any adult.
Tell us how that's working. So tell us more
sure.
of what. We're not stating these as like a reported fact or confirmed.
Right. But people, if they are, curious about it, just go and Google. Right now, the current government, unfortunately, cut the funding for those kids because the government was given the attorney press because they come here, and I believe there's a way like file an asylum for them because they are as
for the
young
minors.
as 2 years old. Like they even don't know what the.
Well, even if they're 10 years old, they're not going to hire an attorney.
Right.
Well, where are they going to go?
They don't know what to do.
Right.
But they have to claim their whatever they claim in front of the judge. And so far, the U.S. government was providing an attorney. But right now, those fundings are being cut. And there are so, on my Instagram, and I see the videos like kids are sitting in front of a huge, in a courtroom in front of a judge.
Wow, that's
by
devastating.
themselves, and they had the headset. I think it's translation. I think they only speak Spanish, but do you understand what's a lawyer? And they say, no.
Of course not.
It's another thing. And that made me think what you said, how desperate should be a mom to send, her kids by themselves to cross the border. It gives me goosebumps so bad, to get a better opportunity, better chance, better shot in life.
Yeah. You're right. It's shocking because it's like the lesser of two evils, because God knows what they're enduring on the other side of the border. Because it's not like unfortunately I've had some exposure to the court systems with kids get kicked in criminal courts. Sometimes here, this is not relating to immigration law, but parents who are in custody or there's only one parent and they end up in jail, kids get kicked to foster care. And there's a lot of abuse in foster homes. A lot of people are just taking on kids for financial gain because they get paid per child. So you have foster homes that take like 10 kids. Because they're getting a couple $100 a month, and it's not going to the kid.
Yeah.
So, it's really devastating. I don't know. It's an interesting time.
As I said at the beginning, I think the U.S. immigration system is broken. I think U.S. deserves much better, more efficient, more better functioning immigration system than this. Because there's a great potential for those honest, hardworking immigrants to fit in. I was lucky because I was educated in my home country and I had opportunities. But as you said, people, they come here without any document, without a visa. And right now, it's a very important part of all of our communities. For their hard work, they are gardeners, cleaners, they do the much lower jobs that nobody wants to do. And there's a need, but there is no proper, efficient system for them to gain anything, any legal status, and they are being treated as right now, especially as criminals. And I think I wish the system, we had a much better system to eliminate the bad apples. For sure, there are bad
Of
apples
course.
too.
I mean, everywhere.
Yeah. But to keep the hardworking, because U.S. needs those people.
Absolutely.
Like, it's a huge country and there's work and opportunity for everybody as long as they are honest and hardworking.
Right.
So, but I think we need maybe with all the pressure right now we are having with the current government, I'm hoping maybe it will trigger some kind of, agreement from the both sides of the political spectrum to agree on at least some minimum things to make a better immigration system, maybe a reform.
Right. So, I want to end this topic on the note that there are really no hard defined answers right now. So what it sounds like to me. And a lot of it is up in the air. That's very unsettling. It's very dysregulating, but that's the reality. If we sat here and pretended there aren't really defined answers, and only time will tell. But just to end it on a positive, lighter note, to ask you a personal question, and I'm asking this because the most influential people in my life, even though I'm a citizen. I was born and raised in Los Angeles. I don't have that perspective. But the most influential people in my life and the ones closest to me, including you,
thank you,
my parents, my husband, have come here as immigrants.
Yeah.
And not like birthright citizenship. They not like seamless like that. They came here as either adults or young adults, and they had to do all kinds of jobs.
Work,
yeah. So my question is, if you can go back in time to when you did arrive here in this beautiful, glorious country, and what was, as an immigrant, not as a lawyer, because when you came here, you weren't you were a Turkish lawyer, right? But you were here, and we met in law school. You were in law school. You were on your journey. What was the most pleasant part of coming here? Just some memories of like, wow, this is a cool place to be, and some of the more difficult obstacles that you had to overcome. It doesn't have to be just immigration law related, just as a human being, as a person adjusting from culture to culture. Turkish culture and American culture are radically different.
It depends, I think. It wasn't same for sure. But California is not a hard place to get used to.
And I mean, you're close to the beach. Of course, it's not for you.
So I grew up in Istanbul. Istanbul is like the biggest, most cosmopolitan city in Turkey. And I grew up with the Western values and like a very European, lifestyle, I would say. But when I came to US, first of all, I didn't know if I was gonna stay here and became a US citizen because I was just a student. And my biggest ambition was to get my master's degree in law because I thought it would have made me much more marketable back in Turkey.
Home.
Back home. It was my idea. But during my education, Whittier Law School, actually, that opened the door for me. I think our school had a great bar preparation department program.
Yeah.
And the Professor Schindler she was one of the professors. She encouraged me to get ready for the bar. It wasn't even in my mind to taking the bar exam initially.
Right.
So it was most rewarding and also challenging experience in my life.
Was it easy to make friends with Americans?
Yes and no, because my English wasn't as good as right now. I believe, I learned the legal English.
Which is a lot harder than the regular English.
Before than the regular speaking English, I was speaking very, very properly. very formally.
Which is very awkward at restaurants, right? When
But
you
they
meet a
were,
friend.
Californians. My husband, he had been living in U.S. in California for 12 years at the time, and his friends were most of they were Americans. We didn't know any Turkish people, so they were always very welcoming. I never felt anything like
Like an outsider.
outsider, even though I'm sure they had hard time to understand me. And at school, actually, I met people like you, Mary. You were one of the wonderful people, welcomed me. I felt I was welcomed. I don't know. Do you want me to tell the story I told you about your mom?
Oh my gosh. Well, of course,
Yeah.
it's there's a lot of political things going on in the world for all
Yeah.
countries, between
Yeah.
countries. Clearly, we're a very rare world collides between you
Yeah.
and I because
Yeah.
Turkey, Armenia.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do want to
But
share
I
that there was
still-
none of that. We were two human beings
Right.
connecting. And I think
Right.
that's
And
really
I
the story.
I love that.
Two human beings connecting. There was nothing
Nothing more.
else there.
Yeah.
Nothing more, nothing less.
Yeah. And it was heartwarming. I still keep that memory, our initial meeting. And you were, remember you had that evil eye bracelet?
I don't remember
It
this.
was our orientation day. And I said, oh, it's evil eye. And we start to talk. It's like, oh, my parents was in Istanbul or, they had vacation. They brought this. I'm like, I'm from Turkey. And, instantly we became friends during the orientation. And, we sat in one class together. And the second time you came to the class with two groceries.
Armenian grocery bags?
Yes. And you were like, oh, I told my mom that I have a friend from Turkey and she shopped for you. And there were burek inside and some, leaves, like some paste, the pepper paste. It was like, and it was maybe the 4th month in the US. And I even didn't know those products exist.
That's so funny.
And I
Yes.
still keep that memory in my heart. Like, it's one of the very, as you said, and memorable things. I still, it was very moving.
Thank you for
Thing
sharing
for
that,
me.
Aycan.
Yeah, of course.
I have to give a lot of credit to my family, and I'm trying to impart that in my own children. They're immigrants. I'm not, but they raised me to know that I'm a citizen of the world.
Yeah.
That's it, period.
Yeah,
That if I find
love and the common cultures, there are more things to unite us than divide. And division doesn't make us strong. It just lessens our strength as a human, as a community. Of course, we have to face the things bad happened and
Absolutely.
we have to face, but we should try to find the mutual common grounds to build a stronger future for ourselves and for our children, based on love, not hate. I think that should be our motto.
Absolutely,
And,
because I do love you.
yeah,
I love at first
you too.
sight. That's undeniable. It's been, 18, 17 years. Aycan, I want to thank you for today for a few things as we wrap up.
Sure.
Of course, your time, but for coming here and sharing what is happening in our world, in our United States at this very unique and complex time in history.
Yes.
And I also want to thank you for the work you're doing, because I am not an immigration lawyer, but I can see that it's not just a paperwork. There is a full layer of empathy and humanism involved in it, because it's so personal.
Oh, yeah.
It goes beyond all of that. And you're probably living through some of this process with many of your clients. Thank you for sharing. We will post your information, your law offices of Aycan Iskent in Irvine. And I have so much gratitude for you. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me, Mary, again.
Thank
It
you.
was wonderful.
Dear listeners, if you like what you heard, you can subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple, and follow me on my journey on Instagram and YouTube. Until next time.